Hundreds of Israeli protesters blocked major highways for several hours yesterday to protest against what they're calling government neglect of soldiers who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. It looks like they're being heard because Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has just promised to pass governmental reform on the issue within 2 weeks after admitting that Israeli mental health care services are out of date. Now, these protests come just a week after an IDF veteran suffering from PTSD set himself on fire outside a defense ministry rehabilitation office. Well, joining me now to break this issue down is Yaron Edel, who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder himself after his service in the Israeli army and currently serves as an activist for other veterans and soldiers like himself. So before we get into the protests, I want you to explain what PTSD is to our viewers. Not everybody understands what this looks like.
Okay, so first of all, thanks for having me and letting and have a talk about this issue. So basically, post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental injury in which when you get into a traumatic incident, your mind gets wired a bit differently. And you start looking at different situations that occurs to you in your day-to-day life as threatening situation. And you have a lot of symptoms connected to it. Obviously, it can be depression, it can be nightmares, and so on, and rage and stuff like that.
Now, obviously, this question might seem like a very obvious one, but, you know, almost all Israelis are obligated to go into the military, have lost a loved one in conflict, or have somehow been exposed to war. So, you know, the question is, how many people in Israel suffer from PTSD, and why are these numbers often so underreported? Why is there so much of a taboo around understanding what these symptoms are?
Well, basically, the first and big barrier that you have is that we are a militaristic society. It means in this society that when the military or the defense ministry say that something is forbidden to talk about, then it will take a long time to break this barrier. So this is like a cultural thing. That will be the first part of it. The second part of it is that there is a belief in Israel that talking about, you know, mental illness and specifically PTSD from the army has a weakening effect on our preparation to future wars and conflicts, which is obviously a wrong belief.
Right.
The numbers, well, there is 50,000 injured people who are treated by the Ministry of Defense, and from those 50,000, approximately 5,000 are, you can say, officially being treated by the army. I'm one of them. But as you said before, as an activist for many years, I can say to you with a lot of knowledge from day-to-day operation and from meeting different friends and doing different stuff, that the numbers are much more higher.
Well, that's why I want to ask you, you know, what protesters are demanding from the government. You know, why do IDF veterans and soldiers feel that they're not getting the support they need for PTSD? And I know this, I don't want it to be a quick answer, but it has to be. I mean, what do you want to say to the Israeli government in terms of what they need to deliver?
So basically, there are two basic problems. The first one is how that you get officially into the system. You need to prove different stuff. You really get treated as if you were a criminal, as if you were lying during all the process. So all this onboarding, you can call it, all this onboarding process is very painful. The second part of it is after you get your official stamp from the government, treatment is not easy to get. You have a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of people who do not understand how to actually give a good treatment to PTSD, to a veteran hurting from PTSD. I want to say a last thing, if it's possible. in the Hebrew language, we don't have a translation for the word veteran. And that's actually can tell you a bit of how this problem is deep-rooted in our society. We are soldiers until we die. And if you want to get treatment, if you want to be a much more healthier society, then we need to give treatment and give respect to those people who actually serve the country. And it can start by actually creating a word for it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just unbelievable how taboo this subject remains to be in the state of Israel. But, we're hearing now Netanyahu saying, okay, we're going to make major reform. There is a problem here. What kind of additional aid can we actually expect from the Israeli government, especially in this new reform package that they're touting?
If you're talking about managing expectation, well, I don't expect any kind of reform. The way that they've been handling all this situation is, in my opinion, a disgrace. They appoint people who do not have experience in public service to actually do a reform in public service, which doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Somebody who hasn't wrote any policy paper or nothing. So I do not expect any kind of reform. I'm very cynical about it.